To set our keys on the right hand, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to start by selecting the driver, and then I'm going to open up the set-driven key window by going to Key in the Animation toolset and going down to Set-driven key and Set. So with this controller selected, I can load it as my driver, and I can find the index finger here and plug that in. Now we'll actually zoom in here and go into the index finger itself and select all the joints, because those are what we're going to be working with. And I can load those as my driven and select all those. And now, just like before, we're going to be using the rotate Y and rotate Z for these fingers. And as soon as we select those, we can key it immediately because we're already on our default position. I'm going to jump right back to the driver and set this index finger to +10 and then position these into the grip position where I think they belong. So right around here, around 70, and I'll key that. Then I'll jump right back over to our driver. I'll move this again. I'm going to go all the way to -10, select these joints, and move them up to where I believe they should go whenever the animator slides this attribute to -10, which is kind of up like this. And then I'm also going to grab the knuckle here and then move this over on the Z axis so we get a nice splayed finger look. And I might even reselect these joints and bring it up just a little bit more and key that. We can move right along. Actually, this time I'll set this finger all the way down to 10 so that I can use it as a reference for the middle finger. So in the set-driven key panel, we want to move on to the middle finger, and we want to plug in our driven objects. So I'm going to load those as my driven, select those, select the rotate Y and rotate Z, and immediately key that. Now we're going to go back into the driver and set the middle to +10, reselect those joints, and I'm going to try to emulate the same position that we have there for the index finger. So right down here should be okay, and I'm going to key that position. Jump right back into our driver. I'm going to move both the index and the middle finger up so I have the index finger as a reference, and those are both in the -10 position now. And I'm going to grab these joints and rotate the middle finger up to that position. And I'm going to key that position because I think that looks good there. Now we're going to move right along to the ring finger. So I'm going to select the ring finger in here, and I'm going to select all the ring finger joints, and I'm going to load those as my new driven. Select all those, grab the rotate Y, rotate Z, key that, and I'm going to go back to the driver, and I'm going to position all these in +10 so that I have this as a reference again. So I'm going to reselect these joints, rotate it till it looks good in a fist gripping position, and that looks okay. So I'll key that. I'm going to grab this controller again and bring up all the fingers to -10. Then I will grab the ring finger, move him up so it kind of matches the other fingers, and then I'll also do another splay on the knuckle joint here. So I'll select that knuckle joint and rotate the Z-axis a little bit so he's splaying outwards towards the pinky, and I'll key that. Now we want to go to the little finger. I'm going to select the little finger joints here and load those as my driven. Select those guys and make sure I have the rotate Z and rotate Y selected here and key that. I'm going to jump back into our driver, and we're going to set all the fingers to 10 so I can use them as a reference again. And I'm going to move this pinky to where I believe it should be on that setting, which is somewhere around here. And I'll key that. I'm going to grab this controller again. I'm going to bring all of them up to -10 here. And I'm going to make sure our pinky is following suit. So I'm going to grab all those and move the pinky up. And then I'll also grab his knuckle and splay the knuckle out on the Z axis here. And that looks pretty good. I'll key that. I'll just do another little testaroonie here just to make sure things are looking okay. Looks pretty good to me. We just have to do the thumb last. So I'm going to move all these into the fist position so we can position our thumb properly. So in the set-driven key window, I'm going to grab the thumb. I'm going to grab all the driven joints and load those as our driven. Select those joints and grab all the rotate axes and key those. So now we have our default position again. I'm going to jump over to the driver and change the attribute to 10. And then I'm going to position these joints so they look proper in this fist position. So I'm going to move that down, and I'm going to rotate this first joint here up on the Z-axis so he kind of comes out. Because you all know you don't want to make a fist and punch with your thumb in your fingers. You want to punch with your thumb out of your fingers, otherwise you'll hurt your thumb. So that's kind of what we want to make sure happens here. So position this, just using all the different rotation axes to get the right position. That looks pretty good there, so I'm going to key that. And now we're going to move all these fingers up to -10. So they're splaying again, and we want to make sure the thumb is following along. So grab all those joints again, rotate on the Y-axis. And then I'm also going to grab this last joint here and rotate it up on the Y a little bit more too, just in case we need that extra distance there. And I'm also going to bring this first joint up and around a little bit. You can kind of use your own hand as a reference if you want to spread your fingers out. You can just kind of see what that looks like. My hand doesn't look as cool as this, but I can at least get the proper position. And that looks fine. I'm not going to complain about that. I'll key there, and we have all these fingers moving around. And if I close this window, we're done with the set-driven key window. I can grab both these controllers now, take all the attributes, and I can move them all at the same time, just in case you wanted to do that. That's something that you can do. Now, before we move on from the fingers, we actually want to take care of the skin weights here. Because if you grab this controller and try to move like the index finger, for example, and you scrunch that in, you can see all this volume in the finger that we're losing. It's turning into that classic noodly, bendy finger, as opposed to a nice, strong finger like we want. If you look at it from the side here, kind of, let me move this thumb out of the way, you can see how chubby this finger looks. And then when we make the fist, it kind of turns into a little soggy French fry, and we don't really want that. So we're going to take care of these skin weights next before we move on.